Hello, my name is James Inglis. I grew up around horses. I loved horses and I worked as a groom at Doonholme Estate outside Ayr. I spent some time during the war with the V Corps Cavalry Regiment. My own story is told elsewhere in Wellington Square. I'm here to talk about horses, especially horses from Ayrshire in the war. Horses were used in two main ways during the war. First, the cavalry, the local regiment, the Ayrshire Yeomanry, was at the start of the war a mounted regiment. Due to the machine guns, it was obvious right from the start of the war that the days of cavalry charges were over. The Ayrshire Yeomanry were dismounted and the men were sent to fight as infantry, mostly in Gallipoli. But the cavalry were still used in other ways. For example, they could move men quickly to where they were needed, and the men could then dismount and fight on foot. My own regiment carried out reconnaissance and scouting operations, but the second way in which horses were used was as transport, to pull artillery and supply wagons. This was much more important and was much more closely linked with Ayrshire. At this time, Ayrshire was renowned for breeding Clydesdales. And Clydesdales were exactly what the army needed. They were exceptionally strong and they were exceptionally calm. In other words, they could pull huge heavy guns through thick mud, and they remained calm during deafening shell fire. In the first few weeks of the war, the army requisitioned 120,000 horses from farms across Britain. Most of these horses could trace their ancestry back to Ayrshire. Farms like Craigie Mains near Symington were famous for breeding Clydesdales. One horse, Baron of Buccleuch, was sold in 1911 for £6,500, the equivalent of about £1 million today. Many of his descendants fought and died in the war. Horses purchased for the army had to meet certain criteria. A horse had to be over 3 years old, healthy, and the right size for the work. The War Office decided that no horse under 15 hands high would be recruited. A horse's height was measured from its withers, the top of its shoulders, with a special stick. By 1917, the army employed about 368,000 horses on the Western Front. Sadly, most of these never came home. Many were killed by shell fire, but the majority died of exhaustion or disease. Those which survived were put up for sale. Some were unwanted and were put down, but others were bought and brought back to Britain, where they lived out peaceful lives in fields far removed from gunfire. They are all remembered in the Animals in War Memorial in London.